You have found what lights you up. I'm your host, Sunny the Life Coach, and I'm here because I see you searching for something or someone out there to help you feel better. Something to take away the pain that you're feeling, the inadequacies. I know all of the things that happen in life can leave you feeling empty. Your search is over. This podcast is all about finding your own freedom and power to love yourself enough to shine in the ways you were always meant to, the ways in which you are already fully capable of. If you're ready for some real talk, some serious truth bombs, and a few F-bombs, you are in the right place. Let's do this. Let's get lit. Hey there. Here's a little bonus for you to wrap up the month of July 2020, which is when this episode is being recorded. Perhaps we can look back on this time. Perhaps you are doing so when you're listening to this, and think about all the great lessons we've learned from the experience of a global pandemic. 2 months ago, it's hard to believe that it's been 2 months, I published a bonus episode about pandemic anxiety. Now, it's clear a lot of y'all are experiencing pandemic fatigue. I know it. I'm seeing it all day, every day. And in this space in time, where we are right now in late July, at least with the moms, the hottest topic at the moment is back to school or not. I know this looks different depending on where you live. If you are in a more rural area of the country, the kids in your area may well be going back to school on time. And really, the biggest difference is masks will be required and we'll social distance and we'll do the things. But for the most part, we're going to get back to the business of learning in person, because we need some normalcy in our lives. Our kids need some normalcy in their lives. Listen, there is no doubt that the physical isolation brought about by the spread of COVID-19 plays a role in the emotional well-being of many of us. I am very much aware of this, I can assure you. Now, my life is right on the outskirts of Dallas, and it's a much more of a hotspot right now. You would think the thought of opening schools up while the numbers are climbing would have parents really considering the alternative options being made available to us, like online learning for a period of time. Not the entire year, just semester by semester. That's what is being offered. Our family chose the online option. My husband and I talked it over for all of 10 minutes. We weighed our options, made the best decision for our family, and we moved on. We didn't waver. We didn't second guess ourselves. We calmly relayed that decision to our son, and he was like, cool. The very next day, while the survey was still open, this email comes out from our district superintendent that pretty much says, guess what? We're just going to do it all online for the first 3 weeks. We'll see how that goes and then reevaluate. And everyone lost their shit. I mean, it was an absolute freak out. No, damn it, you don't understand. I need these kids out of my house. Now, I want to acknowledge the moms that have to work outside the home, the parents that are essential workers, and the single moms, and the moms that have been struggling with childcare since March. I see you. I know it feels hard. I understand. Yet, here's the constant in my bubble. We go through this every summer. This summer is no different. As it starts to come to an end, all of the moms around me are saying, please, dear sweet Jesus, when does school start? Well, for now, it's starting online. And it's not enough for the district to state and reiterate in so many ways that online instruction is really going to be instruction, not the self-paced, somewhat messy way that spring's online learning was. To be clear, I don't find fault with any of the actions the schools took in the spring. They did what they could with what they had at the time. I am and always will be a supporter of messy action. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. That's how we get better. Also, we are in a pandemic. To be clear, I am not judging the moms that quite honestly do want their kids to physically return to school, because there's a sense of normal about that. That's what this time of year should be. It should be about shopping for school supplies and back to school clothes and taking pictures. It should be about meet the teacher events and meeting new classmates and, as is the case with our incoming 6th grader, visiting a new campus and learning their way around it. It should be about going around the corner to a different bus stop, getting on that bus and being on their merry way to disappear for a good chunk of the day and do whatever it is that kids do in school. That just isn't what's going to happen this year. Not for a lot of us. Add to that realization layers of complexity with political posturing, both at the national and local levels. My neighbors in Fort Worth are really going through it. At first, the announcement was, and this is Fort Worth, that they were starting school on time about 4 weeks before school was to start. That's the word, in person. Yes, we'll have an online option, but we're opening the doors on time. Then, just a few days later, the local health department said, no, you can't do that. In fact, you can't have in person any earlier than September 28th. That's about 5 or 6 weeks from the start of school on the calendar plan. You can only do online until September 28th. Today, as I am recording this, the Fort Worth School Board is getting back together to possibly change it up again. Who knows what it will be at the end of the day. So listen, I get it. Everyone is just exhausted with the pandemic. It's really fucking with our daily lives. And for some of us, our livelihoods. This has us feeling all kinds of ways about what's going on around us. We just want everything to go back to normal, back to the way that it was, back to all of the petty stuff that we used to complain about, like not having enough time with our families, like having to run ragged between all of the activities we had our kids signed up for, balanced delicately with activities for ourselves, like going to the gym, meeting a friend for lunch, all of those things that we used to take for granted that have now come to a screeching halt, and we are over it. Now, I don't know what's going to happen in the Fort Worth School District, but I really do feel for all of the families impacted by the back and forth. I do know that our district announced sample online schedules just yesterday, and moms lost their minds again. It's too much. How am I supposed to manage this and my job and my household too? How is my child supposed to sit still for 8 hours per day with just mini breaks in between virtual classes? We have all of these questions. How is this supposed to work? And we start spinning around in overwhelm and feeling helpless about it all. What I have done personally is settled into the realization that I have no control over any of it. I'm telling you, there is magic in letting go of your need to control the things that you can't. Very early in my career in corporate, I was the go-to person for our CIO. I helped her prepare for big monthly committee meetings, and she was quite the perfectionist. It really mattered a great deal to her how everything was presented. And so we would prepare these packets every month for the attendees. It was almost like putting on a mini conference every month. You had a well-planned agenda. You had supporting documentation, diagrams to explain new concepts, all of the things. And I was very happy to be a part of it. I loved putting those packets together. I loved getting creative and helping to bring her visions to reality. What I also loved was knowing exactly what everything was going to look like at least the day before a committee meeting. Because it was a lot of work in preparation for what amounted to a 90-minute event. I was there for it. I just wanted to know exactly what was expected of me to get it all ready, so the morning of I could just show up and execute the plan. Now, these packets were no joke. We went through a lot of trees in those days. Sometimes 3 to 4 of us would spread out in an open area of the floor and put everything together. Stacks of paper everywhere, but we had a system of bundling this package together. As I think about it now, I'm kind of visualizing carpet time at kindergarten as we're sitting cross-legged in the floor and putting all of these packets together. There was all of the work that it took to get the contents of those papers created in the first place. And the very last step was putting it all together. So let's just visualize all of that. And then the meeting itself was at 8:30 in the morning, and I would usually arrive at 7. There was nothing unusual about that start time for me. I liked to get into work super early and have some quiet time to really hammer out some work before the rest of the department arrived and things started humming. So here it is, 7:05, and my desk phone rings. It's my manager calling from her cell phone as she's running out the door, and she has a few little changes to make. She starts rattling them off. And she does this with a combination of excitement and authority. It was very strange. It was very surreal. It was just like nothing I've ever experienced. And here's like the thing she would tell me is, I want to flip the layout of the diagram on this document. It'll make more sense if it's laid out from left to right than the way that we have it. I want you to rewrite this section on the 5th document to say this instead. The way that it is just doesn't sound right. And 2 more agenda items to the open discussion section needed to be added, and pull this file printed out for reference. Now, I'm sitting at my desk looking at the stack of neatly laid out packets that I am going to have to tear into and shuffle around. And that's after I make all of those changes electronically that she just relayed and she's asking for to be printed out. It's now 7:25. TikTok, and I'm pissed. Everything was fine just the way that it was. That was the thought in my head at that moment. No one is going to notice that typo, and why does the first draft of the diagram have to be perfection? It's a first draft. I did the work, but I'm telling you, I bitched about it under my breath the entire time, and plenty of times out loud. I even shot daggers with my eyes at my manager when she appeared 20 minutes before meeting start, asking, "How's it going? What can she do to help?" Just stay out of the way, please. I'm sweating. I'm moving so fast. My hair is starting to get wet. My mascara is running a little bit. I'm a hot mess already, and the day hasn't even started. I just get more and more pissed. But I make the deadline because I always do. I rush like crazy to make her last-minute changes and to meet her standards because I always do. Because it's not like that was the only instance. No, it happened like that just about every month. Sometime between 7:05 and 7:15, I would see her cell number displayed on my desk phone and I would cringe. I would wonder for a split second what would happen if I just didn't answer it. Kind of like some of you moms may be thinking about that latest district email. What happens if I just don't open it? Because I'm tired, boss. I'm weary and exhausted from being jerked around emotionally. I will never forget the one day that I lost my shit on one of those early morning phone calls. I literally just lost it and I yelled. I said, "Why can't you plan better than this? Why does everything have to be last minute with you? Do you have any idea how much you are stressing me out?" And on the other end, there was a brief pause, but then I could tell when she spoke, it was through a clenched jaw. I can't control when my epiphanies happen. If it's at 3 a.m., that's what it is. This is not about you. And that, my friends, was one of my greatest life lessons. That very moment. When she said that, it hit me like a ton of bricks. She can't control when her epiphanies appear. I can control what she does with them. I can only control how I react. In that moment, I let go of my need to control her. I let go of the notion that she needed to think like I do and let some shit just be what it is. That she needed to move forward with the confidence that the presentation itself was still going to be great, like I planned to do. That's not how her mind worked. In her mind, if anything was off just a little, or could possibly be perceived as such, it would mean something about her ability as a leader, and she wasn't having it. I realized in that moment that if I just let go and stopped resisting and pushing back and wishing she would be different, then I would find some peace amidst what felt like chaos to me. And I took a deep breath and I just allowed her to be who she was. And while the early morning phone calls didn't end, there was a new understanding between us. Expect the unexpected. Every little adjustment doesn't have to be so tragic. I'm happy to report that our relationship flourished after that. It really did. When I truly tried to understand her and not take it personally or become a victim of her epiphanies, everything just fell into place. Everything was okay. One disruptive moment at a time. You may be thinking a couple of things right now. First, who in their right mind yells at her manager? Well, that's the relationship that we had. I'm not advocating you yell at your manager. We were also good friends, and people would sometimes remark that we fought like sisters. We worked very closely together, and we made a lot of things happen. We had a great bond. The other thing you may be thinking is, what the fuck does this story have to do with school starting during a pandemic? That's a whole different level of stress than scrambling to get packets together for a committee meeting. Well, to that I say, stress is stress. Whatever you're going through, know that others involved are also experiencing an entirely different movie. While you have no idea what scenes are playing out for them or what epiphanies may be happening at 3 a.m., what you do know, you're having thoughts like, this isn't the way it's supposed to be. Why are they doing this to me? I wish things would go back to normal. They need to plan better. Stop jerking us around with all of the changes. And those thoughts generate feelings of anxiety, frustration, helplessness, and yes, fatigue. Your thoughts about what is happening, not the events themselves, your thoughts. Not the latest press release or school board meeting or email update, your thoughts about it. What if we could all acknowledge and accept that nothing is normal right now and there's a whole lot that is out of our control? What if we could extend grace to our school and community leaders who are having to pivot themselves? What if we could set aside all of our judgments about how things should be right now, what school should look like, what life should look like, and just breathe into what is? If we can find a way to do that, we're going to have a much better experience. Some of us are spending a lot of time pointing out the dangers of the pandemic itself and how unlikely it is that it will be fatal when we are not ourselves facing certain death. We are being dramatic about having some disruption in our lives. But I've said it before, dying is not the worst that can happen. The worst that can happen is that you spin around with all of these emotions of anger, frustration, and helplessness, lashing out at everyone around you as if that's going to change what is. We are living life right now in a global pandemic. There might be some fallout. Things might not go perfectly. Expect the unexpected, flow with it, and you'll grow with it. Focus your energy inward and find your calm, find your acceptance, find what you can control and work on that. When you do that, everything that happens around you becomes much less impactful, much less disruptive. I know you're tired. I know you want it to be over already, but think about my last episode and go back and listen if you haven't yet. If we spend all of our time wishing we were there, where there means this pandemic and all of the fallout from it is but a memory, then we are missing out on living right here, right now. let go of your need to be smarter than everyone else. Let go of your need to have school and community leaders do it the way that you think it should be done. Get curious instead. I wonder what this school year will look like. I wonder what I can do to make it memorable in a good way. What can I do to find solutions for my family, for my family's unique needs? Curious. It's time to bring back a Rumi quote, because I think this fits perfectly into the conversation. Rumi says, "Sell your cleverness and buy bewilderment. Cleverness is mere opinion. Bewilderment brings intuitive knowledge." Yes. When you spend your time living this life of yours, wishing and hoping and pushing back and railing on all of the things that don't line up for this ideal you have created in your imagination, you will be miserable. This goes for any time in your life, not just this time. This is simply another challenge. This pandemic is simply another obstacle, which can also be seen as. If you choose to see it that way, and your life is a series of choices and decisions that you can make from a place of power, this can simply be seen as another opportunity for you to find a way to live your best life right now, in spite of the obstacles, in spite of the challenges, in spite of the fact that things just aren't the way they were last year, last month, or last week. It's all good. You've got this. All you need to do is recognize the thoughts you're having around all of it. The fatigue you're feeling in these moments, it's actually a choice. You can choose not to. You can choose to rise up. You can choose to light up. You can choose to shine on no matter what. Thank you for listening to my bonus episode. And if you enjoyed this, please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts so that others can find this too. I'm Sunny the Life Coach, and you have been listening to Light the Fuck Up. Shine on.